The sponsor for today's podcast is Repower Daily Electrolytes. Hello, I'm Kieran O'Connor and welcome back to the Calculated Risks podcast. Today we are joined by Jayne Brewer. After spending most of her career in the public sector of this Welsh ecosystem, Jayne is now the CEO of 2B Enterprising. Her and the team are inspiring and educating the next generation by making sure kids at the primary school age are getting access to further education through their enterprise skills program. And she's making businesses like mine pay for it. Hello, Jayne. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks, Kieran. Looking forward to it.
I've been looking forward to this one for the last couple of weeks.
Good.
Been very, very excited after Mark suggested you would be great for the podcast.
No pressure.
No pressure at all. We start with the gifts, as always. So first of all, here's my book. I know you've been eagerly waiting a copy of that. You told me off camera.
Book.
Yeah, you can keep that somewhere.
Brilliant.
Maybe pass it on to someone who might benefit from that as well.
It's not about recruitment. It's about becoming the best version of yourself. Yeah, this is great.
And a little bit of recruitment. Yeah. But it's a good book.
Thank you.
And of course, our electrolytes from our sponsor. So you got a taster pack there with 8 of the different flavours. No carbs, no artificial flavourings, and a bottle. Everyone seems to love a bottle these days. So please let me know what your favourite flavour is.
Treats. Didn't expect that. Thank you.
Yes. I start the podcast the same way, and I'm always curious about people's risks that they've taken throughout their life. So thinking back to the beginning of your career, like post-university, what was the first big risk that you can remember taking, and then how did it make you feel at the time?
Okay, the first risk that I took was starting up my own business at the age of, I think I was 23. And I had been doing some work for Welsh Government, doing supporting students on developing business plans. And I remember thinking, this is really exciting. I think I want to start up my own business. So I decided to set up Swansea's first speed dating company. And I ran that for 10 years. And it was a risk because I'd never run my own business before. I didn't really know what it was going to take. Was it going to take an awful lot of intelligence, an awful lot of money? Would people want it? Would it work? So I set up with a business partner initially, which was great because you had each other's ideas to bounce off and kind of like another person there to fail with you if you did fail. So we ran a successful business, for about 10 years, an event every month, really. So it didn't impact on my day-to-day job, but it was a very profitable organisation that worked really well. We did a lot of market research to suss out, is it going to be, a successful business? Is there demand in the market for it?
That's a very interesting business to start at 23. Where did the idea come from?
Well, I'd been at university in Bath and then did my master's in Bristol. And a lot of my friends were single when I was in Bristol. And Bristol being a much bigger city, there were loads of speed dating events going on. And they had the best time. They literally came back and said that was the best experience, a really great, safe way to meet other people. So when I moved back to Swansea, I realised there wasn't any event like that would support, single people meeting others, particularly if they were like flat out in jobs or like myself going into self-employment. I wasn't really in an environment where I'd meet lots of new people. So it was it was just before online dating. So we had a real sort of captive market. And a lot of people have said since, actually, Kieran, since the sort of height of online dating, that we should bring speed dating back because a lot of people are fed up with online dating, and speed dating is a much more efficient way of dating.
And now a message from our sponsor, Repower Daily Electrolytes. Picture this, you're in the middle of a busy day, work deadlines, family chaos, but without realising it, your brain is running on empty. Just a 1% drop in hydration can tank your focus, reaction time, even your mood. That's why Repower Daily Electrolytes created the ultimate hydration formula. Packed with the right electrolytes your brain craves. Forget plain water. Level up your energy, sharpen your mind, and feel alive again. Stay sharp, stay strong, and hydrate smarter with Repower Daily Electrolytes. And you can use our code PLACE10 to get 10% off your first order. Let's fast forward to now then, Jayne Brewer today. What is your risk tolerance like now? And then a second part of that question, like how do you come to your decision making when you're taking risks as well?
I'd say I would definitely take more risk now. A lot more calculated. I know a lot more. Obviously, just through work experience, but also working in a startup. I mean, I took a big risk leaving a really secure job, as secure as a job can be, to join this organization as the chief exec, an unknown entity, a startup. That was a real risk. And both my children were sort of under a year old. I've got two boys under, they're really close in age. So it was a big risk. So 4 years on, knowing that we've achieved that and we've got through a really challenging period, I'm kind of like, yeah, I've got the confidence to perhaps take more risk. Obviously, evaluate absolutely everything, particularly as the business grows and you've got more people, more stakeholders within the organization. But I actually started investing about 2 years ago myself, having gone through that process of gaining investment for the business, recognizing that there were very few female investors out there. So the more female investors we've got, the more female founders they're likely to be. So I've joined something called Women's Angels of Wales, and I've made 2 investments in that time.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Is this the direction you want to go down moving forward, to make more investments?
I'll let you know when they turn out to be successful.
We'll see if we return on the money.
It's really rewarding. I've learned so much as well by being in a room with an incredible bunch of women who are really keen to invest and to make a difference. So that's probably one of the biggest risks I've taken since the last one. Yeah.
Making an investment is a big risk because you never know if you're going to get any of the money back at all.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Let's go back all the way to post-university then, because I know we got a lot of younger people who watch this podcast who might be around that time in their journey. So you studied economics?
Studied economics, yeah. Economics and international relations at Bath. Yeah.
Yeah. And what happened after that? Talk to us about the next few years post-university.
So I did a 3-year degree. I didn't do a 4-year placement. So I did my degree within 3 years, loved being in the West Country. So used that kind of year where my friends were coming back from placement year, and I did my master's in marketing at Bath, at Bristol, which was brilliant. And that was the direction that I really wanted to go in. I absolutely loved marketing. I loved the market research side of things. I loved thinking about campaigns, being creative. And I guess that was sort of got me into the zone of having a product or service and having people to pay for it. And the bit in the middle is marketing, isn't it? The bit in the middle is the communication tools that you will use. You can have the best product in the world, but unless people know about it, unless your customers know about it. So that was kind of the inspiration. And when I finished my master's, I went to work for a small consultancy practice in Swansea. And I worked there for 13 years. It was just me and a business partner. I was eventually made director. And I think when you've worked self-employed for that length of time, you build up a lot of resilience. You build up a really good network. You build up a work ethic that's probably unrivaled because you take 2 weeks off and there's nobody there to do your job for you. So you do build up a real work ethic, which perhaps in today's society isn't always the healthiest. I still take my laptop on holiday with me, but that is my choice. That's absolutely my choice, because I would rather monitor my emails across the holiday and make sure I'm not coming back to a shed load on the Monday morning when I've come back from holiday. That's just the way that I work. There's no expectation for other people to do that, of course, but I don't think I'll ever change.
I think it's very difficult for, like in theory, it sounds nice to leave your laptop at home or not take any sort of communication work-based. But, when you've been self-employed for so long, or maybe you're an executive at 2B Enterprise right now, in actual real life, it's quite difficult to do that, because of how many things are happening on a daily basis. So I'm the same, actually. I'll always take something away for at least an hour, at least 2 hours a day just to get my head down and stay ahead of the game.
Totally. And my husband knows that. So he affords me that time. And is really understanding, because he knows that I'd just be uncomfortable to be around if I don't just get that check out. Great, no urgency. And I think being involved in a startup as well and nurturing those people that have joined and trusted you in that situation, you kind of, you still feel totally responsible.
So that was it's interesting to finish university and go on a self-employed journey for 13 years. We mentioned off camera that typically people might do that the other way around, where they become employed and eventually go self-employed. And you mentioned it was for a consultancy. So give us an idea of what sort of things you were doing over these 13 years.
So we had contracts directly with the Welsh government to deliver business startup support. So I started in an administration role, really, filing, paper-based work, market research, and then eventually won my own contracts with the likes of Venture Wales to deliver business support. I also did a lot of work with ELWA, which was then changed to DCELS, Department for Children Education and Lifelong Learning, if I remember correctly. Did a lot of work with investors in people and workforce development programs, so supporting businesses in developing their long-term training plans, really, to sort of get the best out of their business.
And 13 years is a very, very long time. What made you decide to move away from that after all that time?
I think you become quite institutionalized in a small organization. And also the work that I was doing with bigger businesses, I'd sort of go in, develop a training plan with them, provide some recommendations based on my experience and my understanding of the organization. And then if I went back in 6 months and things hadn't been done, I was like, why haven't these things been done? And I felt like I didn't know what it was like to be in a bigger organization and face all of those challenges that you would experience in a bigger organization. So I made an application for a job in Wales Millennium Centre, literally like a dream job, and went through a really rigorous interview process, like a full day assessment centre with 5 other candidates. And it was amazing. And I remember leaving there with a pumping headache, but thinking, I really want to go and work there. And I didn't get the job that I went for, but they did take me on anyway for an alternative position. But I did eventually then get to deputy director level, it was just fantastic. It was a great environment to work in. Got to meet loads of people, got to do quite a bit of traveling, and it's a creative environment, isn't it? It's just electric.
It's really interesting they hired you for a different position, which we'll come on to now. You know, those 13 years, because I have had feedback from a lot of people who watch this and are in self-employed positions, might be on their own, doing something creative, potentially some sales, or trying to build a business, actually. Like, what sort of things, when you think back to that time now, did you learn and have you taken with you in your career?
Oh, I think that resilience and that drive and that determination, that you kind of have to wear a load of hats. And I struggled with that when I did go to Wales Millennium Centre, because there were so many other people with their expertise in their area. And I've been so used to doing everything, probably not always very well. So I think that was the mentality, is you just take on so much. You have to be all things to all people. And we've seen it with 2B Enterprising. We've gone from a really small group of 3 to 9 to 11, bringing in some freelancers. And you let go of a little bit all the time, which you don't do when you're working on your own. And there's a lot on your shoulders. And I think what I have learned is it's identifying those bits that you don't do very well and being really honest with yourself to say, actually, I'd be far more productive if I gave that bit to somebody else. For instance, the VAT. I used to hate doing the VAT. I honestly used to sit there on a Friday afternoon, got to about 3 o'clock. I'd put it off as long as I could, and I'd have a beer. And I'd literally just wade through it. And my business partner, the people that were working with us, knew that I hated doing the VAT. I felt like it was a waste of my time. I was fine at it, but we should have just given it to somebody else to do.
Doesn't feel like productive work, does it?
It wasn't productive
it's not like
work.
Bringing in business.
No, but then you're really tight with your budgets, and you're like, oh, if I can do it, then I'll do it. So I think that is what I'd take from it, is identify where your strengths are. And if you could be more productive in that area, sometimes you've got to speculate to accumulate, haven't you?
I completely agree. I outsourced all of that straight away. I have not got I probably have got the patience, but I don't want to have the patience to do the numbers and the VAT side of things.
And it's a distraction.
Yeah, it's not bringing in business or delivering projects. So it's a B task is what we would call it, rather than an A task.
But it's very important you do it.
It's very important, or someone else does it. Yeah.
That it gets done.
Yeah,
gets done.
That's a really good point you made there. And I always think about this, and I know a lot of other people will. You mentioned that you should focus on the things that you're good at and outsource the things, or get help from things you're not. How do you become aware of what you're good at? Like, when did you start to realize you've got some really good strengths and maybe some weaknesses as well?
I don't know. I think I'm still looking for them actually, Kieran. I guess, I've sat in certain meetings and I felt this is where I belong. Like literally, this is where I feel I am adding most value to the business, and where I feel, and I think it's okay to say where I feel like I'm being really good at my job. And I don't feel like that in other areas. And we've got to be really honest with ourselves. And I get it comes with time. It does come with time, and it comes with putting yourself in different experiences. And yeah, I probably could have stayed with the consultancy for a lot longer. I don't think it would have added to my experience or my character at all. I really needed to go out there, and I learned so much. In that first year, I learned so much just about being around other people, and, having a different structure and reporting lines and managing people is really where you start to figure out. And I think, we're of an era now where, long ago it would have been a real asset to have like 25 years experience in one company. And we're moving away from that now. We're moving away from it. And I don't think that people get any benefit from job hopping frequently. But I do think that you need to recognize when perhaps your time is done there. I've got what I need to get from this organization and from this experience. And am I adding value? Am I doing the things that I really want to do? And I think we've got to reflect more often. We've got to reflect more often. And perhaps, take yourself out of your comfort zone and pursue what you want to look for. What I'd always say to a lot of younger people is, that are applying for jobs, is find a company and a job that you want to do, and then go after it. It might not be advertised. But if you turned up at my door and you said, I've been watching your company, I'm really interested, and this is where I think I can add value, I'd be like, right, let's have half an hour, let's have a chat.
It's a bit of extra effort, isn't
It's
it?
extra effort, but it's showing initiative.
Mm-hmm.
Does that exist anymore? Initiative. It's showing a bit of grit. I was in a restaurant last week in London, actually, and there were a couple of guys that came in, and the environment was just lovely. The team seemed to get on really well. They'd only been open a week. So I was like, oh, this seems like a really nice place to work. And they were like, yeah, we're having a great time. And I was like, right, I'm going to come back in 3 weeks and see if you're the same. But there were a couple of guys that came in with their CVs, and people do that anymore?
I'm not sure. I did when I was a bit young.
I
handed
know.
out the CVs physically, and I think the initiative or the willingness to go the extra mile, or certainly show interest,
Yes.
is definitely fading away. And it's interesting what you say. Actually, the staying with a company for a long time used to be a sign of loyalty and value. It's almost gone the other way, where if you've stayed with a company 15 to 20 years, I wouldn't say institutionalized, but you've only learned those skills for 15, 20 years. And it's so difficult with the speed at which the market's moving, AI, all these new software tools. It becomes a difficult place to find something new.
Unless it is an organization that's really progressive, and it's like, actually, you've moved and you've constantly evolved, but that's not always the case. So reflection is really key.
Yeah, if you've progressed through lots of promotions, then there is some wonderful companies out there like that, but not everyone is like that. Let's talk about that transition from 13 years self-employed to joining the Wales Millennium Centre. You mentioned that they didn't hire you for the position that you applied for.
No, they didn't.
They didn't. Tell us.
I went for the role of deputy director, and somebody else got it. And I remember turning up on the first day and thinking, oh, I'm going to hate you. And I absolutely adore her. She knows exactly who she is, and still really good friends with her today. And it was really clear in that week why she got the job and I didn't. But they offered me a position anyway as business performance improvement manager. So the two of us were hired and started on the same day. And it was my goal then. I was like, I still want to be deputy director. But I learned so much in that sort of year and a half before I got to that stage. And it was very much, I remember my colleague saying to me, there's certain things that you can't control. And I'd been so used to being in control. You'll know this from being a startup or working on your own. You're so in control of stuff. And then when other people are doing things, you're like, oh, what's everybody doing? So I needed to learn to put the plates down.
Yeah, I was going to. That was one point that is going to answer my next question. So I always speak to people that go self-employed, right? And they will experienced some of the problems that we've already mentioned about, oh, they've got to do everything now. They've got to wear many hats and they haven't been used to it. So like roles reversed, you know, you've gone from self-employed to employed. What were the massive changes that you've seen and how did you adjust to them?
I think it was that sense of working with a lot of people, a lot of different characters, a lot of different personalities, particularly in the arts. You know, we had a real sort of commercial side and then a very artsy side. And it was sort of our role to make sure that we got the creativity out there, also did it in a really commercial way, you know. So it was dealing with different personalities, dealing with wonderful personalities, meeting so many incredible people, amazing talent, and just getting an insight into just other parts of the business. You know, we'd sit in on HR partner meetings, we'd sit in on finance meetings and just get into grips with loads of different parts of the business. And it was eye-opening. It was really eye-opening. And I loved it because you do have to deal with, I just learned so much, particularly from senior people, colleagues I worked with.
There's a whole nother skill set, right? A whole nother skill set of learning how to manage people, be around people, give instructions and take advice as well.
Yeah.
I'm always fascinated by promotions and how people get to a position where they are able to move up the ranks, like you did from business improvement manager to deputy director. So thinking about why did they promote you? What were you doing to make you warrant that?
I guess I did always put myself forward for different things. You know, we all worked really hard there. I think it was difficult not to. You know, me and my colleagues would often be the last ones in the office, even though some of us lived further away, be the first one in the morning. Just absolutely loved it, embraced every single minute. And I think that never goes unnoticed. And I guess learning from my colleagues for the first sort of year and a half and learning that, what's the word I'm looking for there? Tolerance, I guess, and ability to manage different areas. I guess that was what it was. And I guess the grit, you know, the fact that I'd worked on my own for 13 years or in a small business for 13 years and that willingness just to get involved, get your hands dirty and do anything that needed to be done, then yeah,
you'd almost built those habits and that like mentality just to go the extra mile. So you don't lose that after 13 years.
No, you don't.
You continue that and take that with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So at this point, you're deputy director. At what point did you start your running journey? Because I know you've done a few half marathons and a London marathon.
I have done the London marathon.
Was this around this time?
This is 2021. So, oh goodness. 2020? No, it wasn't 2021. It was 2011. It's tattooed on my foot. It was 2011. So no, I hadn't joined Welsh Millennium Centre at that point. I was still in the consultancy. And actually, that was probably a bit of a risk that I took as well. So I'd happened to mention to somebody that, I'd love to do the London Marathon. I'd never be able to do it. No, I'm the type of person that watches it on TV a little bit tired on a Sunday morning, watching people thinking they're absolutely crazy. And this guy, Rob Clark, an amazing chap that used to run a gym and fitness and motivation classes in Swansea. He's an amazing chap. Rung me one day and goes, "Jayne, I got you a place." And I was like, "What do you mean?" "I've got you a place to run the London Marathon with 10 of us." "Okay, you've just got to raise £1,500, I think it was." I was like, "Okay." And that must have been in the September, and I ran it in the April. Never had a passion for running at all. Like, I don't think I really could run 2 kilometres by that point.
And you went straight for a marathon first rather than a half marathon?
No, I did do, my first run was Llanelli half marathon, which is the most awful half. It was in those days. I think it's quite good now. So I did the Llanelli half about 4 weeks before the London Marathon. And I have a tattoo because that day in London changed my life.
Well done. It's hard enough to get into the London Marathon and to finish it as well. I think a tattoo warrants that. Such a big achievement. Did you train? How hard did you train?
Yeah, I trained hard. So I probably did, sort of Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'd do 10K before work. And then I would do a longer run at the weekends. But I guess the training really ramped up sort of just after Christmas. So January, February, March, April really started ramping up. And you just need to have the time. I think it would be really difficult to do it now with children. You have to dedicate yourself. Actually, turning up on the day was probably the easy part because I'd done so much training. And, I looked around, I was ready for that day. I felt like I couldn't have done any more. And that's the position that I wanted to be in. I felt confident. I did it in 4 hours, 29:56, so just under 4.5 hours, which I was really pleased with. And it was just the most incredible experience, because I said 6 months previously that I would never be able to do something like that, having never been a runner. And to have got myself to that point. But yeah, you need the time. Doing a Zumba class and going on the bike for half an hour is not going to cut it. You need to put the miles in, you need to put the hours in. So Sundays were always, 3-4 hours dedicated to a long run.
That's the hardest part, is the training, isn't it? Like you said, turning up on the day when I did my marathon was the best part. Very fun. I felt ready. But the amount of effort you've got to put in beforehand of consistently training and running and doing the long runs as well as the short runs, it was tough. Loads of people have told me, oh, I'd love to do a marathon one day. And I'm sure most people would. But, can you remember how the experience was in terms of did you expect it to be worse, or was it a bit better than you thought?
I think I expected it to be worse, actually. I did expect it to be worse. And I didn't. What was really strange, it was just before the royal wedding, I think. So they'd closed off a lot of Green Park. So the sort of funnel of people and the supporters was all really condensed into a small area. And I remember finishing it and feeling really sick, Didn't even think about the aches, just felt really nauseous. And I remember finding my family and literally just sat down on the grass and amongst all of these people, because I just felt super sick. I didn't anticipate feeling like that. I was really dehydrated. I don't take on a lot of water when I run. I get a really bad stitch. So I don't take on any, not normally, but I've built up a little bit more tolerance to things like that, but I would never take gels or anything. So I was really dehydrated, and I think I could have prepared a little bit better in that respect. But yeah, I don't think I expected to love it so much. And I went back the following year to cheer, and literally stood outside Buckingham Palace just crying and clapping at all of the people. And I make a point now that where we live in Swansea, the road is always closed where we live for certain events, Ironman, 10K, half marathon. So I make sure that me and the boys, my little ones, will go down to the bottom of the road, set up camp. They get loads of sweets, and we cheer on the runners, and we've made signs and things, because to me, that is one of the most amazing things, is having that level of support. It just keeps you going.
Yeah, you might have saved me a year ago, because I did Cardiff, Swansea and Newport, and Swansea was my first one.
Oh, was it?
And I was running round, and I got to, I don't know Swansea very well, but it might have been about an hour in, going up this big long road, and then you wrap it back around and come to the beach. And there was all these kids on the side with Haribos, and I must have taken about 20 Haribos, just non-stop eating. And they saved me, though.
Yeah.
They really, really did save me. And the support on all of them, including my marathon in Barcelona, was just amazing.
Oh, wow.
And it makes a big, big difference.
It does. It absolutely does. And I think I did Bath once, and it just rained the whole time. And I'm a bit of a fair weather runner. And I remember just all of these really miserable faces, at the side. And I thought, God, it's amazing how the mood of the crowd will just change the experience. So yeah, we always have a really good time when we cheer on, and I want the boys to be able to recognise how important that motivation is for people.
Definitely. So going back, you're at Deputy Director position now at the Wales Millennium Centre, doing pretty well, I would imagine. Maybe
it was good fun, yeah.
Comfortable potentially. What made you want to think what's next?
Well, I was commuting from Swansea to Cardiff every day, which was quite I kind of just got a little bit mundane in the end, even though I did love it there. But a role came up in Gower College, Swansea, that was kind of, a bit of me. And I went for that job, and that's what brought me back to Swansea.
Were you travelling down 5 days a week?
Yes, pretty much. Towards the end, I used to work from home maybe one day a fortnight, but I loved being here. In Wales Millennium Centre. I loved being there. Absolutely loved being there.
It's a really interesting topic because, the space we're in, right? We recruit for startups, and a lot of the startups now want people to be present in the office as much as possible. anywhere between 3 and 5 days. And the amount of people post-COVID, the situation that we all went through, that will, Swansea's too far for people to come down to Cardiff regularly. I would go as far as saying some places just further than Newport are also too far for people to come to Cardiff regularly. And I think, 5 years ago, that was just normal. You get on the train, you go into Cardiff, or someone from Swansea, to get a better opportunity, would just drive down.
Totally.
But I think that's gone now. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
I
really
agree.
seeing it gone. Do you find the same when you speak to people?
And I think we're missing out on loads of different opportunities, or people are missing out on those opportunities because they're not prepared to travel. I mean, it was hard. It was really hard. But I used to leave super early. And I'd go to the gym up in Cardiff, so that I'd done the worst of the travel, missed the traffic, and then used to get into work relatively early, and then wouldn't leave until later. But that was pre-children. There's no way I could have done it. And I got married, and it was, we wanted to start a family. It was just not sustainable to be able to do that, despite how much I loved it. And I still, every time I see the building, I, will take a selfie and always have really fond memories and built, really close friendships.
Yeah, I think that makes a big difference, actually. If you've got life commitments, a family, young children, that's huge. I worked in Newport for about a year and a half for a startup before they went through.
Yeah.
And that was about a 40-minute drive there and back. And it was fine for me. I didn't mind. I put an audio book on and you come back. However, now I'm in the Maltins, which is a 6-minute drive away from me. And it makes a big difference. So for you to, work more local, you're getting an hour or two back a day.
It does. And my husband was recently working in Carmarthen, driving back and forth, and sometimes in Haverfordwest. And we'd lose him for like 3-4 hours a day, basically. And now he's working literally 4-minute drive from home, which allows me to do a lot more traveling as well with the boys. So yeah, it can be difficult. So I understand where people are saying I want a bit of flexibility, but I do think that we're limiting ourselves then to working with certain organisations. And I think we're missing out on a lot of creative conversations and collaboration in the office.
I completely agree. That position that you moved to in the college, now in Swansea?
Gower College, Swansea.
Gower College,
yeah.
What was that position?
So that was head of employer development. So working with the B2B, basically, selling apprenticeships to organisations, which I loved, absolutely loved it. It was brilliant. Such a great scheme, totally transformed my view of apprenticeships. And we were doing our utmost to really fly the flag for apprenticeships and supporting, lots of the big businesses to use their apprenticeship levy or their apprenticeship spend. And it was fantastic. And it was a great opportunity for young people to earn while they learn and minimize that level of debt that they're coming out with, and probably a much better route for a lot of people to learn on the job and not have to go away or be in an academic environment. And again, what we're doing with 2BE is trying to make sure that young people have a real solid view of all of those options, whether it's self-employment, setting up their own business, going and working in a big corporate, going to university, going on an apprenticeship. And again, I think in 10 years' time, we'll have even more apprenticeships or more traineeships that will give young people an opportunity to try different things and not go and study for 3 or 4 years, get into a lot of debt, and then perhaps come out with something that's not going to give them the job that they expect. I had a very traditional academic journey and I loved it and it was right for me, but it isn't right for everybody.
It's a very good point. It's not right for everybody. And times are changing. I think lots of people are being aware or becoming aware of different methods, which you can go straight into employment, internships, apprenticeships, like you said. And I think that natural journey has definitely changed a little bit.
Yeah.
I think probably for the best.
Absolutely. I agree. And we've got several family members that have gone straight into apprenticeships and they're thriving, progressing really quickly, getting great work experience. They've got it on their CV, and I think it's a great opportunity for young people. And I think if my boys wanted to do that, or they said, look, Mum, I want to move away. It's like, okay, you can still move away and do an apprenticeship. You don't have to just go to university to move away. I wouldn't want them to move away though.
No.
Obviously.
Don't say that.
They're 5 and 6 at the moment.
Not yet. Yeah. So after Gower College, this was when you joined 2B Enterprises.
Yeah.
That's a complete change, right? Selling apprenticeships for Gower College to the CEO of To Be Enterprising. Obviously,
Yeah.
we both know Mark. Mark sits on our board as well, and I really like him. How did that position come about?
Well, Mark actually talked to me about I was aware of the storybooks and the concept 5 years previous. It was sort of a philanthropic project for Mark and the co-founder. So I knew about it, loved the concept, complete entrepreneurship fan, right? Really don't think that we speak to young people enough about it from an early age. And this isn't about saying to somebody, go and take a risk, go and set up your own business. It's about being entrepreneurial. I want entrepreneurial people working for me. I want them to come up with ideas. I want them to be creative and have an understanding of the commercial impact of that. But also, they can have side hustles. The number of young people that when we go in and speak to them now, and they've got this is what I make bracelets, or I crochet and I do this and I sell them. And it's like, this is flipping fantastic. So I'm a big fan of entrepreneurship. So when Mark came to me to say, look, we're going out for investment for this business. This is how it looks. And we need a CEO and we want it to be you. I didn't make my mind up straight away, having two young babies. And enjoying my role at the college. I absolutely loved it. I worked with an amazing senior leadership team. My boss there was brilliant, really supportive. But this opportunity, again, it was a risk, but it was a real opportunity that I thought, I can't turn this down. This is really what I want to do. I want to make a change. And I think also having young children got it a little bit closer to my heart.
Mm. So I'm very aware of To Be Enterprising because I support a school.
Thank you.
Lanishon Vark School, which is a wonderful experience when I went down there to teach the kids these enterprise skills. And I'm genuinely looking forward to when I can support a few more schools.
Great.
But for anyone that isn't aware of To Be Enterprising, what's the pitch? Like, how do you summarize it in a minute or so?
So the pitch is we put enterprise and employability resources into primary schools. So enterprise is on the national curriculum for Wales, but it also sits on sort of the PSHE curriculum in England, sort of employability skills, global citizenship, communication, leadership. So it covers both curriculum. So we recognise that perhaps this being a new area of the curriculum, teachers would want some additional resources and support to teach that in the classroom to age 5+. These are little people. So we've created a series of storybooks, lesson plans, activities, presentations for teachers to download and use. And we also physically go in and deliver 3 workshops a year to each primary school. And we're literally on the cusp of securing our 400th primary school that we're working with across England and Wales, which is really exciting. But each of those schools are supported by a business partner like yourself at Place Recruitment. So the schools don't have to pay for the resources. We ask kind businesses to invest in those resources. And we ask the business partner to attend the workshops that we deliver. They don't have to. The session will go ahead anyway, but this is where you really get to see where your money goes, because you get to see the program in action and what a difference these workshops can make to young people. So you're invited along as a business partner. You've already participated in one. So we run a workshop in that class. And these workshops are all around building up the entrepreneurial and employability skills of young people. So it's at a really low level with years 1 and 2, which is ages 5 to 7. So it's talking about things like leadership, communication, teamwork, problem solving, resilience, probably my biggest one, determination, creativity, and basically getting them familiar with all of that terminology and getting them to understand how they demonstrate those skills and how important those skills, whether they want to be a vet, whether they want to be a racing driver, whether they want to be a teacher, or whether they want to be a police officer, those skills will be important wherever you go. So we host a networking event for young people, which is probably the best networking event anybody will ever go to. It's the cutest thing ever, where we teach young people how to meet, get the confidence to meet people for the first time. So speaking clearly, standing tall, looking up, making eye contact if they can, shaking hands if they can, asking questions. What's your name? What do you like doing? What are you good at? And the confidence that you see build, I'm sure you experience this, in the hour is just phenomenal. It's just phenomenal. And the children that put their hand up to say, I want to come and demonstrate how to introduce myself for the first time, it's always the children that you least expect. And that's what we love, because you really feel like you're hitting a different mark in that class and really bringing out the creativity and the enthusiasm and just something a little bit different with those children.
Yeah, the experience I had was amazing. We went down and we were teaching them how to look someone in the eye and
Okay.
shake hand, write a business card, a very light business card. And all the children, again, ages 5 to 6 to 7, were coming up, shaking my hand and telling me what they like to do outside of work and what they want to be.
Okay.
And it was just amazing to see how energetic and enthusiastic some of those were. And also some were a little bit shy as well, but it wasn't always the ones that I expected. And for me, I think that's such a good age to start teaching them these things. But I'm new to this space, right? So I guess, this is an early age to teach these skills. What were primary schools doing before a company like 2B Enterprising? Were they teaching these sorts of things?
Well, I guess not. I mean, I'm not a primary school teacher, right? So I have our primary school teachers that have developed our resources and our curriculum. And I think a lot of it's sort of been covered in pastoral care and an understanding of, communication and being kind. All of those things are great. Well-being. But I think those real core skills and getting them to understand, what does communication mean? What does leadership mean? And we put it into their context of, do you play football? Do you have a team captain? Do you have ballet lessons? Do you have a teacher? Thinking about what those people do. They lead, they guide, they encourage, they correct, they motivate. So it's getting them to understand in their terms and to see how important those skills are. So I don't think it's been as explicit as we are making it within the curriculum right now. And I think it's wonderful. I think it's wonderful. That's what I want for my children. I want them to be able to, meet other people confidently, ask questions, be interested. We went on holiday recently and the boys met up with this fantastic little boy called Jack. And I said to his parents, I said, that boy, I mean, he was 8, so he was a little bit older than the boys, so he was like their hero. But I said, that boy is going to go far. He was inquisitive. He was eloquent. He was polite. Just really those skills that you think, I don't care about your academic ability. You will, you're a personality hire, and it's he will find the most amazing position for him because he's inquisitive, and a lot of support from parents, obviously. And we see that within schools. There's a lot of support from teachers, and incredible. And I have got an absolute unending respect for primary school teachers.
Going into a little bit more detail about the actual program, right? So you said that you do 3 workshops a year, I believe.
3 workshops a year. Yeah.
Again, I know what the Bumbles of Hollywood is and this the book and the program that they go through, but I'm sure there might be a few interested people watching this thinking, well, this sounds really good. Like, what is the Bumbles of Hollywood and how do these children actually learn through the program?
So our storybooks are a hook, essentially. So there are 6 storybooks for years 1 and 2, 6 storybooks for years 3 and 4. We don't have storybooks for years 5 and 6. It's more about embedding the learning from the first 4 years. So demonstrating those skills, setting up a little business. So, and all of the lesson plans are really clearly dictate how the lesson is led and how it keeps leading back to those 8 characteristics of the enterprising child. So there's probably around 30 lesson plans for the teacher to use throughout the year. They can repeat them. They can use them for different levels. And it's all around activities where the children will be working as a team and practicing their team working skills and understanding how difficult characters can be within a team, working together, managing their time, having tasks that are time-based, having tasks where there needs to be a leader. So really forcing the children to demonstrate or understand those characteristics and building up resilience. They're going to fail. There's certain tasks where they are categorically going to fail or where they need to work a little bit harder at the teamwork. We do one exercise, I'm not sure whether you've done it, which is they pack a suitcase.
I haven't done it.
An imaginary suitcase, not imaginary suitcase. We've got a suitcase on a sort of laminated card. and they have 12 items and only 6 places to pack, for space to pack in your suitcase. So they have to work in pairs or in threes to decide. Well, you've never seen so many arguments as to what they think they need to pack in this suitcase. And there's things like an umbrella, sunglasses, suntan cream, a mobile phone, a map. So they have to determine and prioritize. And often I've left a suitcase and a pack of the items with a group to say, you need to work on your team working skills. I'm going to leave these here for you. You need to practice this again. But it's a real demonstration of strengths of character and compromise and communication and understanding. And I love it.
All very important skills. So why not teach them as early as possible?
Absolutely.
I want to go back to Jayne for a second. And this first 12 months of taking on a CEO position, coming from college. Talk to me about that. What sort of things were, just tell me about the journey.
Scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, I loved it. And it was a roller coaster. In fact, the whole 4 years has been a roller coaster, actually. And I think if it's not a roller coaster, something's wrong. Because we're always innovating. We're always looking at different opportunities. I've just brought on a new chief operating officer who started a month ago. So that's bringing a different dimension to the business where I feel like we've got greater capacity and opportunity. So yeah, the first year is tough. We had investment. So you feel like you've got cash there ready to invest. I think we made a lot of mistakes. I've made a few mistakes, which I think, it's just, you've got the battle scars to prove it. But yeah, it's my first chief exec gig. I've learned a lot from other people. I've joined different peer groups. I've sought help from colleagues, ex-colleagues, and got their advice on things, on certain situations where I've found it difficult. I've got a great board, which is really important, as you know. It's really important to have a great board that you can talk to, that you can share ideas, but also share challenges and personal challenges as well, really. That's really important.
Yeah. How important is it to have the good people around you when you go on this journey?
Oh,
and then what sort of
100%.
value can they provide to you along the way?
I think it's really important that you, again, like I said, you have to identify your own strengths, and you need to make sure that you're building a board or a management team that have different strengths to you. And that doesn't mean that you get on with them either, because we might be great goalkeepers, but we're not great strikers, and you want totally different skills for those things. So it's about being really honest with the skills and the expertise that you have and where you need extra support. So at the end of last year, we did bring in a new board member, a lady called Bethan Harding, who's an ex-head teacher, and she's really brought more educational clout to the business, which we have on staff, but we didn't necessarily have on board. And she's brilliant. She's got a huge amount of experience. And I think that when we go into the next level or looking at expanding the programme, it's her expertise and her influence that we will really need.
Would I be right in saying that this was, at To Be Enterprise, it was your first time in really, making a number of hires within a business?
Yes.
That's a whole another skill set in itself, right? Identifying people, interview process, it's very time consuming, right? What sort of experiences have you had, and what have you learned from trying to scale a business?
It's really difficult. It is really difficult. And I think you only know how good somebody is in that position when they're in that position. And I'm very lucky. I've got a really good team. I have got a really good team. And when you are starting up, you kind of feel quite grateful that people have come to work with you, because you're a risky business. And I've never sugarcoated that when people have come for interview. I've said, this is how I work. I have got high expectations. I'm not necessarily the easiest person to work for or with. But this is a risky business. If you want a secure business, then you look elsewhere. But I will do my utmost to make sure that this is an amazing opportunity. We kind of make the rules. So if there are opportunities for you to grow, then we want you to have those opportunities. We're not in a box. And to some extent, the team have been incredible at being flexible there. You know, there's some members of the team that have done stuff that I think, oh my gosh, I've really pushed them out of their comfort zone. But I would only do that if I believed that they could do it. And I could give you several examples of where they have completely excelled, completely like just been exceptional where they didn't quite realize they would be. And I'm so proud of them, so proud of them. But it is difficult, and you only know when they're in post.
I think a great topic would be interviews for people who are watching, because I imagine there's a lot of people going through interview processes at the minute, because it's quite a challenging job market. So from all the interviews you've done since being at 2B Enterprising, you know, what sort of things, traits or like behaviors have stood out to you and made you think, yeah, that person looks good, we'd like to progress with them or even offer them a position?
Being keen and showing an interest, coming with ideas, and I think follow up as well. You know, I remember meeting one of my most recent hires, having a chat with her, didn't realize she was looking for a role. And literally within 2 days, she's on the phone. Do you remember we met and we chatted about this? Should we meet on Monday? I was like, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And it sounds so simple, Kieran. It's not difficult. Somebody's looking for a job. They want a job. They follow up on that job. And she's been great, demonstrated enthusiasm ever since. And I think it is showing a willingness, a keenness, an excitement for the company as well. I think, you know, when the new COO joined, you know, she really has a passion for what we're doing. She understands it. And she's like, actually, this is very different to where she's worked before. But from an operational perspective, she's like absolutely the right person. You know, she could work in a football stadium, she could work in a manufacturing plant, or she could work in education. You know, operationally, this is where she needs to be. But you need to have an interest and a passion about what we do. You couldn't work in 2B Enterprising if you didn't, you know, we're not selling pants here. We're selling a really exciting experience for young people.
I imagine you're pretty excited about bringing on a chief operating officer, because that would be someone very close to you, shared accountability, and ultimately some tasks passed to her.
Mm-hmm.
But let's imagine most people watching this probably haven't been in a CEO position. Like, how does it feel to be bringing in a COO, and what sort of responsibilities are you passing over?
I'm passing over a lot of the responsibilities that I know I'm not good at and that she totally excels in. So, you know, HR, finance, operations, IT systems, databases. I love them, use them, but, you know, looking at how best we use those, I have been so focused in bringing in business. It's what I'm good at doing. And even though all of those things are important, they've not been urgent. So, and just developing and managing the culture of the organization is really important as well. I'm away for weeks on end a lot of the time. So having somebody at a senior level that's there, that can, you know, really work with the team, develop the team, nurture the team, answer their questions, be that sounding board. And for me to have somebody back at camp doing that at that level is just brilliant. They're all very capable individuals, very capable individuals. But it's having that overview and bringing lots of different things together, which I would do if I was there. But I'm not having the time to do that. I'm focusing on the bit that I love.
Bringing in new business,
speaking to business partners, trying to sell the story and the experience. But I know I have felt like it absolutely got to the point where I needed that person. And if I was really honest, I probably needed that person 6-9 months ago. But you keep working. Yeah, I can manage it all. And yeah, I think I probably would be struggling at the moment if I didn't have that person. Capacity wise, I think I would be struggling. So it's absolutely the right time. And I think when you do it becomes easier to hand things over when you are at that capacity point. I think if I wasn't at capacity point, I'd still be trying to be involved, whereas I've kind of gone, not to everything, because I am a control freak, Kieran. So, and she's like, just give it to me. Just give it to me, let it go.
Yeah, sounds like they've come on at just the right time where it feels like you're almost going to burst and you're like, you can take this straight away. Just take this stuff. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
But we're such a key, important hire to a business. Like, what does this mean for the next, 6 to 18 months for 2B Enterprise, and what can everyone expect to see?
I think from an investment perspective, we're going out for more investment. And I think that the hire of the CEO really bolsters the senior management team. I feel like it makes it more investable, to have a really strong female, C-suite on the team. And I just, so that's exciting, is that I feel like it's in a really good position to invest. We've got the right skill set there. And just an ability for me to go out and speak to the larger potential business partners that will want to see the CEO. I can have an amazing business development team, but often they will want to see the chief exec. And again, I feel like that is where my strengths are, to be able to close that deal, give them the confidence that we're the right organization. We haven't got 40 employees. I haven't got all of that luxury of loads of business development staff, senior to junior. I'm still very much the face of the business and the enthusiasm. So it's just allowed a little bit more capacity.
And you mentioned you're going out to raise more investment as a business, which is very exciting. What is the goal of bringing in that investment? Where is that going to take the business then?
Investment in operations, so better systems for the organisation, kit probably that we would need for our staff, resource development, expand the portfolio, and hiring talent.
All the important things.
Absolutely.
There must be some people who are watching this thinking that sounds like a really good initiative, what 2B Enterprise are doing. So, like, why does it benefit a business getting involved with 2B?
We tend to say there's 3 reasons why a business would partner with a primary school. Firstly, it's a really good thing to do at a basic level, right? We have got a real opportunity. So children of age 7+, it's when their minds and their brains are expanding at a rapid rate, growing at a rapid rate. So they're at the most sort of influential, I guess, real minds opened. This is where they start to form stereotypes, gender stereotypes. So exposing them to lots of different role models is really important in that period. So capturing them at that age, I think we all remember being in primary school and having somebody come in. I mean, I think it was a rugby player for us. Often lots of sporting people, not so many entrepreneurs. And I would have loved that. We had the local police officer come in and chat to us. We had a fire officer come in and chat to us about safety. But those jobs that you don't hear about, that really start expanding children's minds straight away, is really important. So it's a great thing to do. Let's inspire the next generation. Let's make sure that they're aware of different opportunities and what skills are key to us as employers, aside from academic ability. The second reason is a lot of businesses want brand exposure in front of that audience. So you've got teachers, parents, children. So it could be a product or a service that, they want children to experience, whether that be a financial institution, so a building society or a bank, for instance, or a product or a service that they want children to use. It could be tech for teachers, or it could be services for schools, or it could be services for parents, financial advice, estate agencies, recruitment services. Okay, so you've got brand exposure. And then the third reason, which is quite high on the agenda at the moment, is part of social value and social mobility. So a lot of organisations with the new Procurement Act and pre that have an expectation when they're delivering public services or a tender to deliver public services, have to be delivering an element of social value. So that's impact on the community above and beyond what they would be doing. So building a school, building an arena, building a block of student accommodation. How are they affecting the community around them? Are they taking on apprentices? Are they working with a local landscape architect to make sure it looks beautiful and it's not a blot on the landscape? Are they working with security locally and the police to make sure the site is safe? Are they working with schools to talk to the schools about the construction process? So that's where we come in, is that we're able to broker that relationship between the business and the school. But social value and social mobility is pretty much every business's responsibility now, not just construction. It's very much been in the built environment sector, but it's falling to a lot of businesses, recruitment, financial services, any sort of service that, provides a product or a service to the public sector.
Three very good points. And I think the best one is it's just a good thing to do to help the next generation. That's something I feel very passionate about. It wouldn't be right saying all those benefits if we didn't know how to get in touch with you, Jayne. So where can people go if they've watched this and they're thinking, look, I'm quite interested in 2B Enterprising?
They can email us info@2, the number 2, B, the letter B, enterprising.co.uk, or visit our website, 2benterprising.co.uk. We're on all social media channels. So have a look at Instagram and Facebook. I think on Facebook, it's the Bumbles of Honeywood programme. So you can see all sorts of engagement there. And LinkedIn, we've got a really good presence where a lot of our businesses will be sharing their content.
Sounds good. And I really, really appreciate you coming on the podcast today. Thank you very much, Jayne.
Thanks, Kieran.
And that's it. That's the end of the podcast with Jayne. I think we can all agree that 2B Enterprising are doing some wonderful work for the next generation. If you're a business and looking at joining their program, please get in contact with Jayne directly. As always, please like, comment and subscribe, and we'll see you on next week's episode.